The Pit Press Podcast.
Reinholdt launches from downtown. No. Van Horn, no. And that's it. New Mexico wins it.
Kenny Thomas blocks. Gibson hustling down. He has some room. And he gets it. Oh, long three. He got it. Oh, my goodness.
Kendall Williams from 35 feet. For the win. Snell got it. He got it. Wow. With 1.8 seconds remaining.
All right, welcome back to the Pit Press Podcast, or as Danny Gonzalez wants to call it, the Den Press Podcast. I think I can come up with something a little bit more clever for that. I don't know if you heard that, Kurt, but we'll get to that in a second. My business partner, friend, co-host, Eric Malton. How are you, sir?
Good. Happy to be back in the studio. We're here at the Hydro Bar podcast studio.
By the way, this is very important. We're at Hydro Bar live stream at the Hydro Bar.
That's right.
7800
7400 Montgomery Boulevard.
Suite 19. That I know.
That's it.
We thank Tim Baca for that. You think I would have written that down? Doing my due diligence again.
You'll
All
get
right.
it eventually.
Yeah, I know. I'll remember something one day. We have a friend of ours on the show who we are always happy to have on, and I love talking to him because he's got the New Yorker thing going. He is, I don't know, I wasn't going to make that joke. He is the president, founder, he's many things, of 505 Sports Venture Foundation. His name is Mr. Kurt Roth. How are you today?
I'm well. Thanks for having me on again.
We always love having you on. It's always a great conversation. I'm going to start off right off the bat with what transpired around the nation today in regards to college athletics. I'm just picking your brain on this. What did you make of everybody jumping ship of the Pac-12?
Well, where it gets me, and because we're involved with the student and athlete side of it, is this total turmoil that seems to be part of the business, but it's the transfer portal. That's the problem. And it's a joke. It's always the kids. We literally have two senators now in Washington, I won't name them, I don't want to get political, who have proposed some federal legislation that includes a restriction on the transfer portal. One of them happened to be a former SEC coach. I don't know if he can count to 10, but that's what they're concerned about. Meanwhile, the landscape of college sports blows up, but it's the transfer portal. We have to watch out for that, because a few kids have freedom of choice, can go to the school they want, and maybe make a few dollars. But the $1 billion a year contract with the Big Ten, there's not enough money to share with the kids.
You want to talk about the money part of this, right? With the conference shakeup, how much money these conferences are making from TV deals.
Oh.
I mean, how much are the athletes getting out of that? And if they want to cut NIL out of the picture, right? They want to mitigate it or control it somehow. But the powers that be that run the conferences that are basically organizing these deals.
The whole thing's baffling. The way the structure is now, the NIL money is private money. The schools have to compete, but they don't have to raise the money. Now, some schools are better than others at encouraging donors and boosters to participate in the NIL. Some are non-existent, some are middle of the road. You would think that the schools might be somewhat happy with NIL being a private function because they don't have to pay it. It's money that's raised privately. However, I think it's a battle. They lose control. They're fearful. It's an arms race that they don't have a direct say in. So I understand. And it's also the big difference is for the athletic directors, the coaches, the administrators, it's a 180-degree change from the way they've existed their whole career, that you can pay kids above the table.
Right. It's. I always think of the movie The Program with James Caan, and if you've ever seen it, and one of the players he gets. I can't think of the actor's name. He dates Halle Berry in the movie, but he's a running back. He's a freshman running back, and he gets it's like a real satirical look at like a real. I'm rambling, but he gets a like $500 in cash in an envelope, and that's the whole point of the movie is how dirty, how crazy college athletics was. And that movie came out in the early '90s, but I forgot what I was going to say. That's real great podcast hosting. No, fear. I think fear, when you use the word fear, and nobody likes change. And I think you're absolutely 100% right with that. I don't know, just fearful. But I'll ask this to you. What's been the overall effect of NIL so far at UNM?
Well, I think it's been positive as far as men's basketball, for sure. I think NIL factored in to not only well, let me take a step back. We have a sort of a saying or a theme at 505 SVF, and it's recognize, retain, and recruit. So what we want to do is first recognize the student athlete in the public, in the community, and then retain them, because the transfer portal is real and it's a cool thing for these kids. So our focus is to keep the kids here. And let's look at the men's basketball roster. We did that for the most part. Yes, there were people who transferred out. The reality is, for most of them, they weren't significant contributors, and they wanted to be significant contributors. They weren't going to be, I don't want to name any of them, but we know who they are. Two of them wound up at Detroit Mercy. Okay? They're not going to play at the same level they would have here. They'll have a better opportunity to play. They chose to do that. The players who contributed outside of Josiah Alec are all back, who could come back. And that was part and parcel of having an NIL opportunity here. So overall, and again, guys, I sometimes get frustrated with this, but I do it on a daily basis. We're still in the education part of this. People don't get it. They're so trained. Even if they get it and they say the words, they don't get it. It's amazing. The change takes a while. But overall, I think the impact here and the fact that we've really ramped up our organization has been a positive for UNM. Well, I know it has.
When you look at like on the national stage, just in the headlines, right? You're looking at some of the SEC, the Big Ten, which used to be the Pac-12. There's a lot of money being thrown around that's in the media. $1.5 million being thrown at the quarterback from Maryland that an unnamed SEC school was offering to come play. Obviously, the Mountain West, New Mexico, the market here is not that big to support that type of money. But what is 505 doing on like a creative side to retain some of these athletes and recruit some of the athletes? Because I feel like you got to kind of expand it a little bit and get creative to drive revenue, right? To drive some of the funding.
Well, that's what we're trying to do on a daily basis. We're partnered with Sobel Solutions, who is basically a high-end media production team. Bunch of young guys from UNM, graduates, experienced throughout the industry. Our film work, as an old guy would call it, they don't call it film. We do reels that are on Instagram regularly, are high end. We get thousands of looks on a regular basis, and we're starting in the media production to promote the athletes and promote what we're trying to do. The next step, for a couple of reasons, is to engage the business community more as partners. And recently, the IRS issued a decision or a recommendation about the status of NIL collectives, and basically said they're not going to recognize them as charities, and your donations are not going to be deductible as a charitable donation. That caused us to have to really look at the business side and say we need to get together with local businesses, and for them it's a business expense, it's an ad expense, it's a cost of doing business. So we've partnered with a few well-known icons of business in Albuquerque, and we're looking to partner with 500 or 200 or whatever. Because it's a simple fact that as the revenue generating sports in this town have been basically, I would say, 2.5. Obviously men's basketball. When the arena or the stadium is partially filled, football makes money. And women's basketball has had a better than break even in the past. So those sports bring more than ticket sales to New Mexico and Albuquerque. They bring business. They bring excitement. They bring visitors. And it's all part of where we're going. We're trying to get this out into the business community.
In your eyes, what does success look like for 505 Sports Venture Foundation? Is there a monetary target, student athlete target? Is it both?
Yes, good question. My monetary my monetary goal is that we raise $3.5 million a year. My student athlete goal is every student athlete at UNM has an NIL deal.
It doesn't matter who it is.
Every student athlete at UNM that wants one gets an NIL deal. And it may be, you can do the math and how many athletes there are and, how to share that, but it could be $500 a year. And that makes a difference, especially for the athletes who are on partial scholarships,
Right.
Which are, your Olympic athletes. They don't get full ride. They don't often have food to eat on the weekends. They have to juggle to pay rent, that type of thing.
Alex Kirk mentioned going to Walmart to pick up pork chops in like the discount section or something like that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Last time we talked, Kurt, you had contract, basically the whole men's basketball team under contract, or at least a big portion of it. Some of the women's team. You mentioned football, just because we're a month out from football. Can you talk to how many, players, programs, who are you working with currently?
Okay, right now we have the entire women's basketball team under contract. We have, and we will have, we're still finishing up with football, I think about 24 contracts. Men's basketball is almost complete, almost 100% participation. We have a men's tennis player. We have a couple of women's softball players. I think I'm missing someone, but I'm 68 years old, so I apologize.
You're forgiven. 505 Sports Venture Foundation. I have to repeat myself to say it because I want to jumble the words around. I mean, no offense to you. I'm like 505 Sports Venture Foundation. I'm going to have it ingrained in my mind. You guys have announced and launched a $20 per month subscription and fundraising efforts for the foundation. Can you tell us more about the subscription and the possible tiered levels, if there are any?
Well, basically, the bottom level, the first level, is the $20 a month. And we go anywhere from, there's no limit. You want to give me $1 million, I'll take it. We have the next level above that is called the Catalyst Club, and that's an annual $2,500 donation or membership. I wouldn't even call it a donation. You become a member of our organization. And then we have the third level is our founders level, which is a commitment of $25,000 or more a year for 3 years. So we have, I don't remember, we just went over the title, the total through July of how many monthly reoccurring subscribers we have. And it's grown tenfold since last year. Our goal on that is 4,000 members at that. I want 100 Catalyst Club, and I want unlimited founders. But it's growing, and we're in a down. This is a quiet period for a couple of weeks, and I'm with Danny. I'm looking for a kind of a cool start with this football team. I'm very confident to take a little side path there. But we'll start having events. Our members, the members who subscribe on a reoccurring basis, get content fed to them from us on a regular basis. Videos, these reels, updated news, events. We recently had a meet and greet that went pretty well, which was by invitation. So we're going to do regular events, We're talking about a reworked towel that's in the negotiation right now. We're going to do a big tailgate for the New Mexico State homecoming game. And so those are the things that are on our agenda in the next 3 months.
I'm not looking forward to Saturday, September 2nd, because I've got to be like 5 places at once all that day, and it's going to be a busy day for us. Let me tell you, What I don't know how in depth you can go it, and then Eric can bounce back on to the next question, but. What is your relationship with a lot of these coaches at UNM? I'm sure it has to be positive. It's kind of a dumb question, but what is it? Does it get a little bit more personal? Is it strictly business? I mean, but you're a UNM guy. I feel like everything's and the New Yorker thing. It's a personal thing.
Yeah, it is personal. I wouldn't do it if it wasn't personal. Obviously, the better relationship I have with the staffs, the better we can work. It's a communication thing. Dave Williams, assistant AD, said it best right in the beginning. He said, we're two organizations on different paths to the same end. And he's right. So we have to have that communication. We have to work together. The football coaches and the basketball coaches are very familiar with the process and how it works. A lot of the other coaches are not. It's not a big part of their industry, so to speak. So there's an education process. There's a fundraising process, obviously, but we've gotten great cooperation from the coaches whenever we've asked. They get it even if they don't understand it yet.
Back to the education process, not only to the student athletes, but the coaches and being able to, they can say this, can't say this in the recruiting process, but education processes to the general public. A lot of people kind of don't know what the process looks like. How do they go about signing up for a membership? And then when you're trying to get businesses more involved to contribute and support, what does the education process look like for that?
Well, the education process, it's access. If you want to know more and you want to really work with us, I mean, I'll meet anyone, anytime. I go to more business lunches now than I did in my career as an attorney. We will kind of suit, if you really are a large donor, say, a business donor, we have the ability to kind of craft a partnership with you. What do you want? Do you want a certain player? Do you want an image? Do you want your brand out there? So we're streamlined and flexible in that. When I say education, I still get people who support UNM who think it's great that they went to a sold-out pit for the first time in a decade last year, and we'll have a great team this year, at least on paper.
We're gonna get to that. I'm gonna ask you
on paper. You heard that, Richard Patino.
I said it too. That makes two of us.
But the education, and again, I kind of stopped in midstream. People know what it means. They tell me, business people say, "Oh, but what does it mean?" And it's the bottom line. The simple thing is you can pay student athletes for their name, image, and likeness. So, the whole education for boosters, we, as a booster, as a member of the Lobo Club and the Sixth Man and the First Team, and I forget what the dugout deal is with baseball, which I've been a member of over the years, we kind of get a little pamphlet every year that says you can't do this, you can't do that. You can't buy lunch, you can't give a benefit. Well, that's not the deal anymore. So people have had that ingrained into their brain about their donation, about what they could do, and now it's different. So that's part of the education. Exactly what it sounds like is what it is. So that message, getting the idea across that we are not stealing money from UNM. We are not stealing. There was a fear that there was, and this is about people who don't understand fundraising. There was an understanding or a thought that there was a level, like UNM can collect $5 million a year. That's it. So if 505 SVF collects $2 million, we lose $2 million. And that's not how fundraising works. There's no limit to abundance. So if we raise $5 million and the football team goes undefeated and the basketball team wins the national championship or God forbid, goes to the Final Four like a team we crushed on their home court last year, then guess what? The Lobo Club and UNM Athletics is going to reap the benefits, and we're all going to do better. It's that basic. And that's an education process in itself.
Yeah, well, I don't think 505 works as well without the athletic department support or like some of their marketing efforts either, right? Like they have to go hand in hand.
They have to go
for it to be effective.
Yeah, it was a slow start, and I think we had talked about that last time. They've come a long way. They're great. I mean, I don't have an issue with the UNM athletic department. They have become great We are a licensed partner with UNM. We're on the board at the pit. We have access to the logos, et cetera, et cetera.
When you hear a school, and Eric, if I've got this wrong, because you're the guy who pays more attention to it. I read. I do this every morning now. I have to read The Athletic. I have to read CBS Sports because I was a CBS Sports guy before they paid me to watch TV. But I like what CBS Sports does. I read ESPN. I read it all. I don't know why. In asking this question, I have to explain to you why I don't go to ESPN first. I'm sorry. It's a bias thing. But Wyoming doesn't have an NIL program. Does that blow your mind?
They have something. I don't know what it is. There is some collective that came and went. It's hard. I've tried to reach out to other collectives, and generally the collectives are a little funny, they seem, about talking to one another. I gather information through the agents. These kids have agents. I won't name them, but we have 4 players at UNM that have agents. And it's perfectly legal. And so the agents talk amongst each other. There's a market out there. There's no doubt about it. So I have a network of agents that has grown, agents, accountants, and tax people, because there's big questions that we're not even sure how it works with players who are on foreign student visas. Oh, you can't pay them here. Well, why not? Why can't you pay them? And there's issues about, well, they're not allowed to work unless it's off campus and on campus, and yada, yada, yada. So what I'm saying is I haven't had much success with the collectives. Seems like everybody wants to be a little secret, except like Texas, when they want to say, yeah, we paid $15 million to football and basketball here. They like that. What they're doing is still it's kind of like a little warfare. We're not going to give our strategy out. But the industry is there. The agents, the accountants, the tax people, we talk quite a bit. So that way you can kind of figure out what the market is.
Well, it helps you navigate it a little bit too, because there isn't necessarily a blueprint of how to do it, what's most effective. I think the creativity kind of
that's my favorite. That's my second favorite part about it. The first part is I can help UNM. The second part is there's no blueprint. You said it. So I often I'll inquire professionals, what do you think? And they say, well, I've never done an NIL collective. And I say, no one has. What I need is you to apply your experience, your expertise, and pretend it's something new, which, again, people are uptight about that. It's great. The law is the law in New Mexico. It's clear. And then when you go outside of New Mexico, the NCAA has gotten crushed in court, and they make these, anyone who likes the NCAA, they make these inane pronouncements from time to time. They're not backed by law. They're pronouncements. And who is the NCAA? I think now they're kind of reduced to an agent. They're an agent for some TV deals, because it doesn't seem like they have too much to say with this realignment. They just watch. But God forbid if Donovan Dent wants to transfer to, Panoma State, they're going to try to regulate that. There I go. That's my rant.
No, it's perfect.
San Diego State can go wherever they want. UCLA can play Rutgers in the Big Ten, which is just inane for someone who grew up in New York, that Rutgers and UCLA are in the Big Ten, and the women's tennis teams can play each other. But like he said, Donnie Dent wants to go to Panoma State. That's killing the sport.
I'm so looking forward to Bruin and Scarlet Knight volleyball here in the next year in Piscataway. It makes such a great rivalry between Rutgers and the UCLA Bruins in college basketball in the scheme of things. this is kind of an oddball question, and it's more personal, and like I want to. It's not a total curveball, but like, how would you approach? Like, let's say you were a St. John's alumni. Like, how would you approach trying to do NIL in New York City as opposed to Albuquerque? Because I think Albuquerque is so unique. I mean, you are, and this isn't a knock on you. This isn't a knock on anybody, but it's like you're a big fish here. Like, you people know who Kurt Roth is. Would your approach be different, or I don't know? That's just a fun question. If you don't want to answer it, don't. Please, you don't have to.
No, I think your approach is different wherever you are. I happen to know I have family who are St. John's alums.
My
who are
cousin,
very active, and they have been asking me since Richard got here. They have been begging me, talk to Rick Pitino. I said, I don't talk to Rick Pitino. We need Rick Pitino at St. John's. They've been asking that forever. So the thing about St. John's, and it's a little disappointing at New Mexico, because we have graduates here who have made tons of money. The St. John's alumni is seemingly a little better organized, and there are some really big-time money guys. One, for instance, I think is probably 90% of Rick Pitino's budget. Mike Rapoli sold Vitamin Water, I believe, a few years ago. And he's a billionaire, and he loves St. John's basketball. Yeah. So Banga, they got 11 new guys. And one of them I loved is a Brooklyn kid who just signed. He transferred to Florida, I think, for a week, Chris Ledlam. Yeah. And bang, he shows up at St. John's. Well, big-time player from Harvard. I would love to have a Harvard grad student playing at UNM who got 9 rebounds a game, of course.
Right.
But, yeah, St. John's, it was a different. Again, though, it's a whole different attitude. St. John's is St. John's, you've got the Yankees, the Mets, the Knicks, St. John's, and that's Rick Pitino's dream, is to fill the Garden again. I don't care how good they are. That's going to be a hard sell.
Oh yeah, no.
I don't care if they're undefeated. There's no Georgetown St. John's anymore.
Right. There's no.
It just won't. Whatever. I wish him best. I really like him.
Right.
And I've been a fan of his. I knew Rick Pitino before Richard was born.
And Rick Pitino won a national championship in New Jersey at Continental Airlines Arena. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know. It's like the whole tri-state area in their thing. But do we kind of ask this earlier on with you? Go ahead.
What?
With the governing body covering?
Oh,
NIL.
just do you foresee any changes coming down with the shakeup of realignment of conferences and what's going to be controlled, what's not going to be controlled? Let's get a better grasp on NIL and. Like how often
those are
you
great
having
questions.
how often are you having to pivot your business plan because there's a new governing body or there's like a new.
Even the look at his face, he was like, "Yeah."
Well, yes, there should be some organization. It seems like there's less every day. I mean, again, you start at the top. You have senators from the two knuckleheads. From West Virginia and Alabama, who are proposing to limit the portal and end NIL. And then you've got other senators who are already talking about revenue sharing. Like, none of that's going to happen because they're on different planets. And it shouldn't happen at the congressional level. What really should happen is a group of the presidents of the colleges need to get their proverbial stuff together and figure this out. Because they're the ones who have the big stake in it. They're the smartest ones. Let's face it, the NCAA is a non-profit organization whose president makes $5 million a year. So, come on.
Let me ask a question after that. Talking like the media deals with the Big 12, I think each school, prior to them adding new schools, they were going to see, $33.7 million a year from some of the major networks. What wasn't discussed was the profit sharing potential outlook. Like, do you see in the future the student athletes being involved in the discussion with profit sharing with the media deals that some of these are?
I hope so. I hope so.
I wouldn't want to be a fly on the wall during that conversation.
I hope so. But again, these hearings in Washington, in both the House and the Senate, have not included anyone from a collective. They have one student, I think, has testified. I mean, they don't care. They're not trying. So I don't know. It's sort of like capitalism at its best form in my mind. It's the Wild West.
I'm trying to regulate it when they don't really know how it works.
They don't even
right?
know what it is. They just know it's bad. You know, and I don't want to go into the political side. I think there's a whole political bent to why 50-year-old white guys can make $15 million coaching a football team. But when you want to regulate the guys in the portal, and if you want to look at the component of the demographic of who's in the portal, it's not 50-year-old white guys. So that's another thing. There's an inherent issue there that no one likes to talk about except me. So I won't go too in depth yet.
Let's just pivot our conversation a little bit. I want to focus more on
Thank you.
more of like the student athletes.
Sorry.
And we had talked a while back, and you were like, well, let's talk when the roster is complete, meaning the men's basketball team. Now that the roster is complete, I know we have one open scholarship left. I don't know if they're leaving it open for a late transfer or whatnot, but like, how happy are you with the roster the way it is now, and can you make a prediction?
On results, no. I've watched sports now for 62 years, since I was 6. 1961 World Series was when I started. And by the way, next week it'll be 50 years I got off a plane from New York at UNM, sight unseen. I said this today. I met with one of our new advisors, who's official advisor, George Scott, who played at UNM in the early 80s. And we talked a lot today about the talent on the team. I have had, meetings with every guy. Our group, and this is a side note, I'm going to pat us on the back. If you are a member of our Catalyst Club, there's a good chance you have been invited out to dinner at Matucci's or somewhere else with Jalen Baker, with Isaac Mushila, with True Washington, and JT Toppin. That's part of what we do, too. We get these people, the kids, introduced to the public. I said this to George Scott today. It's the deepest roster in my 50 years at UNM.
Wow.
And I have no compunction in saying that. Alfred never had 10 this deep. Cooper and Johnson didn't go 10 deep. They literally played 7 guys. The thing that we don't have is the first-round draft choice. And we've had that. We've had J.R. Giddens. We've had Kenny Thomas.
Tony Snell.
Second round, right? Tony Snell.
I think didn't Charles Smith go in the first round?
No,
he didn't.
No, I don't think he did. But we don't have that.
Right.
We don't have the second. Well, now the NBA draft, the college kids, the kid from Gonzaga didn't get drafted.
Yeah, Drew Timme.
So I don't count the draft, but we don't have that guy. But the depth, and the other thing we have because of the portal is maturity. Jamal Baker, because of COVID and injury, is in his 7th year and on his 4th college team. Kentucky, Arizona, Fresno.
Winning programs.
Isaac Mushila, had 14 points and 9 rebounds against the number 1 seed Alabama in the NCAA tournament. He's also the academic player of the year, not in basketball, in all sports, in the conference, I'm blanking, that Texas Corpus Christi is in. The academic guy of the year. So those are 2 guys. Nelly is just a great kid, super mature. And then the 2 freshmen we have are ballers, big-time ballers. They're top 100 kids. And so the one guy who might become an NBA player is JT Toppin. I'm just blown away by his ability, his dedication in the short time he's been here, and the fact that he just turned 18. UNM was on him early. If we had waited a little bit longer, he'd be at Texas or Houston or something. There's no way he'd be at UNM. He's a great kid from a great family. So we have depth and maturity. We have real good guys. No one on this team got kicked off school, off of the previous team. No one flunked out. We've got good students and just good kids.
High character dudes.
Good dudes. We got dudes.
Yeah, Toppin was 4A, 5A, Texas Player of the Year or something.
Second level in Texas, team won the state championship. He was Player of the Year. And, he didn't play ball until, if you look on our Instagram, we have a great interview with him in True Washington with our guy, Collie Soul, at, I think we're at Matucci's. No, excuse me. We're at Frontier, which is one of our biggest sponsors. The Ranasecs are just, aces. And he talked about how, he wasn't any good at basketball. And I think he got cut from his 9th grade team, and he was embarrassed, and he just kept working, and boom. There he is, player of the year.
That's Michael Jordan type stuff.
Right.
Speaking of Nelly, he played in those, was it the World Games, something in Canada?
World University, yeah.
Against a stacked Kentucky team. He had 18 points.
Didn't he have a double-double?
14 rebounds or something.
Yeah,
Maybe it wasn't him. It was almost a double-double.
And no one passed him the ball. If you watch that game, I did. The African team had a lot of athletes. The guards didn't throw a pass. They just shot the ball. So Nelly didn't get help. He got his points and, of course, his rebounds he's going to get on his own. Now, the one thing I will say is Calipari's rated, the preseason predictions have them in the top 20. This is one of the lousier Kentucky teams I've seen. And he even said in an interview after the game, they had the other kid at Louisville, was Okafor, was on that team. He said we couldn't deal with them. They played zone. Kentucky played zone and just let the guards shoot. So, Nelly's not going to go 18 and 12 every game in the Mountain West, but he could be an all Mountain West performer. He's that good.
Sticking with the Mountain West theme, what's your opinion on the whole San Diego State possibly leaving, now wanting to come back?
Oh, who knows?
Wishing to.
We might have Stanford. I don't know.
That's very true.
Oregon State. Who knows? I just it's.
Do you think that's good for the conference? I mean, if
I don't know.
does
I don't know what's good anyway. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm glad it's not my job. I don't know. I don't want to be involved in. I'm curious about the realignment, obviously, but I wouldn't want to be dealing with it. It's I don't understand how it works, and I don't think the school. Hey, San Diego went to the Big East. You remember that?
Yeah.
For about a week, they took Boise, and that lasted what, a week, a month. So they just can't. They have to leave. Nobody wants them. But can you imagine all those teams leave the Pac-12 and then they need San Diego State? San Diego State Cal's a big rivalry. I don't get it.
I forgot about Cal in this whole mix. I don't think no one knows where the hell
I wouldn't be surprised. Stanford has more money than anyone.
Right.
Their endowment is $27 billion, something insane like that. And then a couple of years ago, they decided to cut out all these minor sports. And they dominate across the board in the Olympic sports. They win the most titles every year. And then some of the alumni said, what are you doing? And they put them all back. They brought the teams back. I can see Stanford just saying, we don't care about the TV money. We'll just be an independent. We'll play, and if they have to figure out football, they like football there. Cal is a mess. I don't know what they'll do. No one wants Cal. No one wants that. No conferences are looking for
basketball
Cal.
teams being rebuilt by.
I think they'll be good in basketball eventually, but the academics are high end, obviously, like Stanford. They just don't. They're a public school with a lot of money, but I don't think sports is a big deal with their donor base. So I don't know. I'm glad it's not my job to figure it out.
No, hell no.
We'll just wake up and see. And somebody said it. One of the football commentators was, people were calling into a show I heard, and he's, it's horrible. And the guy goes, I don't care. I'm going to turn on Sunday, Saturday, whatever day, and Notre Dame's playing Navy. And I'm going to be happy as the proverbial pig and, whatever. So who cares? I mean, ultimately, the teams will play. And, we'll obviously see a higher level. The P5 will turn into something else, which will be smaller than the P5. And I think Grammer said it today in the paper. He said, or on Twitter, that let's just make football separate. Let's just make football separate for college and let everything else stay the same. That's the way it probably will wind up one day.
Yeah, same thing on Twitter or whatever the hell it's called now, at Elon's X. There was somebody just drew a map, and I know it's horse, like on Twitter, but they were talking about conference realignment, and they had obviously I would say North Dakota State has pull in college sports from what they've done in the FCS football wise, and I think there are a lot of good teams that are like that, but they left out New Mexico on the map. Like it was just like, and then they showed like a new Big 12, and it was everybody around us but the New Mexico, and it's and for somebody to see that and loves, and you in particular having this conversation with you, but like loves the history, like Arizona's coming here and the pit and lost basketball wise. I don't know. This is more not even a comment. It just kind of irks me. Like that's where I take off my objectivity. I'm like, we're still like there's the new in front of Mexico. We have 5 electoral votes. I always make that joke. Like I don't know. It just irritates me. It's more of a comment. But question for you is what is your outlook on football this year? And now you're working with that, and if you could just comment on that.
Well, I'm a show me guy.
You're from Missouri too?
I'm from Missouri. When it comes to sports, you got to show me. Now, I've spent a lot of time with Coach G. I spent a lot of time with the coaching staff. We went on a sort of a booster trip down to Rio Doso and played golf. I've spent a lot of time around the new additions to the team. They're on the 505 SVF, Dylan Hopkins, Andrew Henry. They're really optimistic, and not in a BS coaches talk way. They're optimistic about the upgraded offense. Now, we heard the stats, and I if you gamble on sports, the stats are ridiculous. I think Danny said the other day, we were in 8 games where we had the ball in the fourth quarter. If we scored, we took the lead, and they scored 0 times. So what he was saying and what he's getting at, and anyone to watch knows the defense was pretty damn good.
Top 50.
And they just got worn out. It was 3 and out. So I think the goal, I don't know if they stated it, I think 20 points a game they put on the scoreboard this year. That'll be a whole new look. Now, the schedule shakes out very interestingly. Tough College Station, okay. And then you've got home against Tennessee Tech, I guess, State, and away at UMass, who maybe won 1 game last year. So I assume, well, I shouldn't assume the New Mexico State game. They seem to be a little better regarded now. The Lobos should win those 2nd, 3rd, and 4th games. And if they're 3-1 and they have some momentum and they're moving the ball a little bit, well, who knows? Now we're talking bowl eligible hopes. So I am excited about this year because I got to know the staff and the guys, and their enthusiasm is contagious. We have a whole new offensive, we have the new coordinator, we got a whole new deal. So I'm psyched. I'm really quietly optimistic, but not until now.
I had to, this is a comment in general, we had Danny Gonzalez on the show last week, or for continuity last week. But anyway, and I am jaded, and I'm letting you know this as somebody who we are dealing with professionally and maybe as a friend, but I didn't have a good experience as a young human being coming up with Mike Loxley, and I have lived and breathed used to live and breathe Lobo football. I've said it on this podcast. I might have said that to you in just conversation. When I was in high school under the good Rocky years, we lived and died by what Lobo football did on a weekly basis. And I still, when they went to Utah and beat Utah, that was Urban Meyer's only Mountain West Conference loss. It just everything that transpired, it pained me. And it's I would have longed for the Rocky Long days, even 10 years ago. But I'm just saying this as a comment. I like Danny as a person. And Danny has that passion, and I want to see him succeed because I just don't know if there's anybody else meant for that. I mean, I'm sure you could pick out a few people. I just feel like right now, here in time, I don't think there's anybody else meant for that job, and I could be wrong, but that's just how I feel. And his passion is undeniable. His enthusiasm is undeniable.
I couldn't agree more. I can't root for a guy any harder. I can't, and I also, I've said this before publicly, New Mexico doesn't respect their own, whether it's players or staff. The University of New Mexico loves to hire outside guys. And so when the guy from Albuquerque gets the job and loves the job and gets he's Albuquerque guy. Can't root any harder for him. Can't make any more sense. can't hope for success any more than I root for him and the team, obviously.
Well, I definitely feel like the optimism is real, not just within the program, but kind of what we're hearing around town. These incoming transfers, right? They talked about a revamped offense, having a ton of athletes, the wide receiver room, the running back room are just loaded with athletes, speed, strength, size. Like Danny kind of alluded to it in his conversation with Ryan last week. But them having even a little bit of success this year, and you can kind of see them start to right the ship. That does well for the 505 too, right? Because that gets people churning a little bit. Like let's bring this thing full force now.
Oh, nothing works like success. Nothing sells tickets like wins. But yeah, of course it'll help us, and that's part of our deal when we deal with the general public. That when you sell tickets in the pit, when you fill universities, hey, you draw 25,000 people a game to University Stadium, you're going to get the economic lift to the city. Forget the spiritual lift, which is huge, but the economic lift, even if the people are coming from Farmington or Portales or whatever for a game, they're staying in a hotel, they're eating meals, they're paying for tickets. The economic lift, and set the result is just huge. So yeah, and it success breeds success. So of course, from a 505, I'm selfish. I got to know the kids, and I got to know a bunch of football players. We just did an incredible benefit at a local elementary school. One of our guys, Deuce Jones, just a humble kid, came up to us. Danny introduced him. He wasn't on our roster. And he said, my sister told me, now that I'm a D1 athlete, I have to give back. And he told a really powerful story about going to school with a single mom family without school supplies. And his first day of school was horrible because he was looked on. He was a poor kid. And those kids get ostracized. So he decided he had to give back. Well, with our help, with the help, I have a couple of go-getters on my staff. Wednesday, we appeared at a local school. We had like 5 of our guys, Luke Wysong, among others, and Deuce. And we gave out 75 backpacks filled with a month's worth of school supplies. And that's the kind of energy that I want that kid to be so – well, he's already a success. I want him to be successful on the field, and that grows in the community.
We're taking care of our own.
I had him on my radio show when he was about to give away free tickets, season tickets, to whoever retweeted him. I think before last year. I know he is. That's awesome. I didn't realize that that he had done that. You have anything left? No. Okay. Well, that's just where I was going with that. He is the president, founder of 505 Sports Venture Foundation. His name is Kurt Roth. I don't know. I always love talking to you. I don't know how Eric feels, but I absolutely love it.
All the time.
I think it's always a great conversation, and I think not only is it a different insight, I don't know. It's just it's always a pleasure talking to you, and we appreciate you always making yourself available to us. We appreciate it. I'm going to shut up.
Well, anytime, guys. I love just, sitting here BSing about UNM and UNM sports. It's my passion. So anybody who's interested, 505sports.org, go check it out. Revamped website is coming up. It's really easy to donate. And if you can't figure it out, call me. And my email's on there. I'll come to your office. I'll come to your house. We'll figure out how to work it out.
$20 a month. Not that hard to get started.
There you go.
That's
$4,020 a month's $1 million.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Well, we always appreciate your time, and we look forward to more conversations here in the future. So, Kurt Roth, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.